Extension from A2K, and thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Revit Series 3, watching Revit 2022 structure. So technical consultant Ben Burns will be presenting for us today. So before we start, we'll just go through about A2K, all about fostering innovation through consulting and training. A2K Technologies plays a vital role in helping infrastructure, building, mining, construction, architecture, and manufacturing industries reach their full potential by delivering complete technology solutions and support services such as education and consulting. We work in visionaries to shape the future of design and in turn enable them to innovation to minimize risks, improve productivities and achieve excellence. A2K Technologies is considered the business partner of choice and trusted advisor by vendors and clients. We partner with major software and hardware vendors to meet our clients' technology needs. We strive to exceed client expectations by pinpointing their challenges and delivering solutions through experience and innovation. We work with clients and companies that are SaaS nationally and abroad. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thanks. So yeah, just a little bit of an introduction for myself. We're reasonably slideshow heavy today, probably about 50 odd slides. I'll get through them as fast as we can. I expect the whole session to take no more than 45 minutes. There is chat. If you do have any questions or anything as we go through, please put them in the chat. I'll sort of monitor that and hopefully get to it. If not, I'll make sure I sort of do some questions at the end. I will also do a bit of a live demonstration of some of the features. So there's an opportunity for you to ask questions for me to show some of the features. I'm the structural technical lead at A2K Technologies. All about sort of software implementation and showing different workflows and how software can work for you better, etc. 25 years plus experience in the structural and consulting engineering industry, mainly doing sort of industrial, commercial, infrastructure, high density residential, design and construction documentation. So I like to pride myself on the fact that there's probably not much I haven't drawn or designed. I've generally had a bit of a foot in everything from small portal frames up to major landmark structures and 40-story towers, etc. I've been using Revit for about, since 2010, so about sort of 11, 12 years now. I've got a structural engineering associate diploma and I do a lot of presentations in the industry and all about sort of automation. So using Dynamo and some workflows to sort of stop repeating some of the tasks. Yep. So we're going on to just some of the new features in Design 2022. I'm not going to read all these out. There's obviously a fair bit in it. We will go through the slides. We can do tapered walls. It's probably one of the biggest improvements to date. So we do know that Autodesk brings out a new release every year and sometimes there isn't too much in it. Everyone may remember or may know of a certain letter that was sent to Autodesk by a lot of the architectural companies. So I think they've really focused on a lot of the things they've maybe been holding back. They've sort of pushed through. So there's a lot of stuff that people have been waiting for and a lot of real noticeable improvements. Generative design is a big improvement as well. So some people are familiar with generative design. That's improved a bit, but again, like if you don't use it, you won't really notice that. But there's a lot of we can now do tapered walls, which are great for retaining wall structures and the like. We can, it's a bit better with the default shared site. So where you do put in like the geo coordinates, it works better with that. There are more options in that through there. The rebar and reinforcement functionality, that's improved a lot as well. So it works a lot easier. And it's also a lot more intuitive for people that don't. I know that a lot of people do trip up with the reinforcement, so it is a bit more intuitive and a bit more approachable for people who don't use it a lot. We can also do a bit more with the structural steel connections, so you can actually make them apply to certain size members, and that way it just makes it so you can use even Dynamo to sort of push through a lot of connections as well. So that's improved a lot. The revision system has improved, and that's more applicable now with ISO 19650. So you can do a lot more things through the revisions. Yep. So that's a lot of design productivity improvements. There's also some interoperability improvements. So we now have like a native PDF export. It does import better with formats and even 3D Sketch. But probably the big, and you can link in Rhino files as well. But yeah, it exports now straight to PDF, which is good. It's still like the native one. I know that a lot of people use some of the third-party softwares to produce their PDFs, but now we can use just Revit to do that. Documentation. One of the big improvements in documentation is phase filters. So we can use phase parameters in view filters now. So rather than just having those only those three sort of settings, new, existing, demolished, we could add new ones, but it was always difficult to sort of show. So we can really use these phase parameters in the view filters themselves. And yep, there's a lot of and like dimension, prefix, suffix, revision numbering. That's probably one of the big ones there. So we'll go through some of them in more detail now. So design productivity, we've got wall enhancements. So now we can change any wall to a tapered representation. We can change that cross-section parameter to tapered and update those sloping angles using instance rides or the wall's temporary dimensions. We can align those hosted components to the sloped face of the wall. So we can align windows, etc., to those faces of the wall, and you'll get clean joins. Modify the sketch boundaries of a slanted wall along the work plane, so you get a greater control over those display of the wall geometry. The bottom line is you enjoy improved wall modeling with tapered and slanted wall enhancements. New and updated Autodesk sample study types. So it includes a sample for laying out entourage and laying out objects on a grid. You can like do the study input. So this is really all that generative design. A lot of people don't use this. It is quite good. You can do different studies. People have even used it like for sort of COVID workplaces where you can actually space out desks and things like that, and it'll give you like the optimum sort of capacity for particular layouts, etc. It has improved a fair bit. In Revit 2022, we can create families using that generic model family template, but we can assign these now to bridge and road categories and subcategories, so abutments, piers, and many more. These families can host rebar, and they can be defined as cuttable in views so that you can schedule and tag, etc. We also provide enhancements to the alignment stationing, so you can prefix and suffix, add that to station text, as you can see here. And you can get the true start and end stations of alignment, so you can use that in the Revit API to sort of automate your bridge design. So it's a big improvement through there. So these enhancements offer improved capabilities and flexibility for infrastructure workflows, particularly in bridges. A2K is doing a bridge course. We've now started a Revit bridge course. Please refer to our website. Revit 2022 has enabled renaming of the default shared site, so we can use that geo-referencing. Reduces confusion, especially when working with shared sites, and it now also supports the 151 ENU templates. So that's like all the different placement ones they use, so MGA coordinates, etc. Family categories for equipment and building elements. So there's a lot of new categories in here. We've got AV devices. Again, from a structural point of view, there's temporary structures, which are a good help. But a lot of it's sort of signage, medical equipment, hardscaping, things like that. So from a real Revit point of view, it's probably more those temporary structures, which are a good help. You can assign these customized generic models to these categories, and you can control that visual display through there. There is an expanded category list for multi-categories. So when you're assigning multiple category schedules, you'll find more categories and subcategories in there. These improvements will help you optimize that visibility and particularly your scheduling. So this is the rebar. So you can actually have the model rebar sort of a little bit different than so you can basically bring in the ribs as well. So rebar detailers, you can now model your bars using the real diameters, including the ribs. So that will really help you to avoid those clashes in concrete elements where it contains a lot of large diameter bars. Your rebar constraints, distances to cover, bar geometry and segment lengths. They're now all computed using that model bar diameter parameter. So greatly increases your efficiency in modeling that accurate concrete reinforcement. Revit 2022 does improve your rebar modeling and detailing. It makes it a lot easier for you to move from those disconnected CAD workflows to BIM, really improving that 3D reinforcement modeling feature. You can now move or remove individual bars in those rebar sets and path and area reinforcement to avoid those clashes with other bars. So you can displace locally bars and still maintaining that sort of logic of the set. So still maintaining like your 200 diameter centers or whatever. There's no need to split a set into those multiple sets or to remove the path and area systems. So it was a bit complex trying to do that. Now it's sort of, you can make it so you can edit them at the same time. This new feature significantly improves your efficiency and productivity in modeling that accurate reinforcement. Particularly in both cast in place and precast concrete structures. You can place rebars of exact dimensions now aligned to any reference with just 2 clicks. So they've really improved how the reinforcement places. It's a game changer basically for rebar detailing in Revit. So it makes it a lot easier than it was before. I think a few people always found it a little bit clunky, where now it just works a lot smoother, and it's a lot more approachable, especially for people who don't use it a lot. Yeah, really improves that ease of use and your own productivity in modeling those reinforced concrete details. You can assign shape codes to custom bent freeform bars, so it provides you better fabrication instructions. You can distinguish between bars to be bent on site versus bars bent in the shop. You can manually assign the desired shape to code to bars. So yeah, it just leads to a lot more sort of accurate rebar bending schedules and bending instructions and the like. Settings used during rebar placement are now maintained for the duration of your Revit session. So there's no need to apply rebar settings for each set. So your layout, placement plane, placement orientation, rebar shape, rebar type, keep their values when restarting the rebar placement. So it works for both shape-driven and freeform rebar. So it reduces that time in having to sort of always like monitor your settings and like manage your rebar settings. An added bonus for 2022 is the improved performance in 2D views when zooming, panning, when the regen's happening. Performance improvements, these are noticeable mainly when displaying that rebar in any 2D views at a fine detail. So really talking like these complex drawings that are on screen at the moment. And in testing of those, the regen times dropped from minutes to, yeah, literally like 3 or 4 seconds. So it's got a lot better of that rebar reinforcement performance than ever before. In Revit 2022, structural engineers can automate the placement of steel connections. Following custom sizing rules, by predefining a connection libraries and associating those connection types with profile size ranges applicable to them. The first step is for you to create that library of your steel connections. In that library, you can add a variety of those connection types and specify the ranges where they'll be applicable. So you can base them on your own practice or like Australian standards, etc. And they're intended to help you save time when you're placing those simple steel connections. So you can have a certain base plate that you use for any SHS or anything from like a 100 to a 200. I know that's probably a bad example, but you know, you can have like a whole bunch of 200 or 250 UBs. That anything that's a UB sort of within 200 to 280 height, you can use a particular base plate for. And that really enhances, you can use that in Dynamo then to then really automate those connections. So once you've configured that library, you can then open that project and use Dynamo Player to place those steel connections automatically. Works well, all your connections like single plate connections, end plates, cleats, base plates, column splices, etc. So anything that are typically pre-designed and standardized, and you can place them faster and more accurately. Another new in Revit 2022 is category lists sorting improvement. So it's now consistent with alphabetical sorting order. So I think a lot of those people who deal with schedules, they will appreciate the alphabetical for properties. So it's a lot easier to sort those categories in your schedule and material takeoffs. In Revit, you can use filters to quickly find available parameters now when creating schedules and working with those. So when you create a schedule, the fields tab, dialog includes a filter section, so you can filter these parameters now. So you can filter them based on parameter name, parameter type, discipline value, type, or instance. And you can use that as a search tool. So as you type in the parameter name in the search field, the list is actively filtered. So when filtering a schedule, that filter only affects the available fields, and fields selected for use are not affected by the filter. You can use that information to help identify the correct parameter to work with. Tooltips as well, where it will show you the parameter name, parameter type. It also appears in the project parameters dialog. So it really enables you to easily filter those types and characteristics and save you a bit of time and help you manage them more accurately and efficiently. The Load Autodesk family. So that opens a dialog that displays the default content provided by Autodesk. Some people have been using third-party products for this. There are a few that people know of. I won't name them. So this content's now on a cloud-based. So it used to be a technology preview. I don't know if some people have clicked on it in the past releases. I think it was available a bit in 2021, but it was only a bit of a preview, where now it's fully functional. So you can have your sequential searches, back, forward, home buttons, and navigate through all that content. And you do get a little node of what it's showing. So it just helps you to find the right family content more quickly. So it really improves that user productivity. When I'm doing, you wouldn't believe the amount of time in classes everyone's trying to struggle to find families. So this is a lot faster. In Revit 2022, settings in all modified tools are now remembered across your sessions for mirror, align, offset, scale, rotate, etc. So it will remember the settings you had across your Revit sessions. The material browser will also remember the last used tab. Your performance in loading cloud projects as well has also been improved by like 30 to 40%. In Revit 2022, many dialog boxes that were formerly fixed in size, you can now resize the boxes. So I know that's something a lot of people have been screaming for. So it makes it a lot easier to work with those long lists. So you can see a few of those long lists there on screen at the moment, and you can drag them to sort of read it, make it a bit more readable. Makes it a lot easier to use. Now we're going to talk about some interoperability features. For those interested, yeah, we're about halfway through the slideshow. So Revit 2022, it includes your PDF export. So you've got your own, and now a lot of people I know use like third-party ones. This is an inbuilt native 2D PDF export. It's very similar to the print dialog, such as your ability to export the visible portion of a view or your user-defined selection of sheets. PDF naming rules, you can really set them up within the export setup. So I know that even with some of those third-party softwares, it pretty much just gives you the name of the file, where this you can really sort of customize it a bit. And if you want to get the name in, the number, and maybe put a prefix in or something as well. So you can do that. You can detect an automatic size, or you can select it from a multitude of sheets. Just makes it a lot more familiar to people, and it's also a lot easier to configure those features, so to really get out that content well. So Revit 2022 enables the linking of files from Rhinoceros. Changes in the Revit file are immediately updated in Revit by reloading the link, so it sort of acts like a live link. That you will need to reload, but you do get that link through there. Host and link to your conceptual Rhino file in Autodesk Docs and ensure everyone's got access to that latest information. Achieved IFC 4 reference view certification. So IFC property set definitions and the like have been updated to the latest versions. Significantly improving the performance of linking in some IFC files containing elements with like large amounts of parameters. Added the ability for IFC exporter to pick up information from your site location, so geo coordinate referencing, etc., as required by IFC. So Autodesk is the first software vendor to support IFC 4 exports for both architecture and structure. That has been an issue. I have had it with a couple of large architects trying to export to IFC 4, where now in 2022 it does have a better tie-in. Maintain links between your Revit and Inventor data for seamless BIM on interoperability. So you can link your Revit models exported from Inventor, and it has the sort of the new simplify command to basically produce a Revit model containing only the components and features needed for your design. You can link those resulting Revit files into Revit projects. And linking Revit back into Inventor. So the Inventor user references the Revit project. So to keep that building design intent model synchronized with that manufacturing data. It allows mechanical engineering tasks to be performed in the context of that building model. And when the manufacturing models are repositioned and sized correctly, it'll link through as native Revit data. So it's a big improvement in that interoperability between Revit and Inventor. Revit 2021 introduced the shared views feature for 3D views. In Revit 2022, this feature has been enhanced to also include 2D views and sheets. So this means you now have the ability to share 2D and 3D views and even sheets of your Revit model with your project stakeholders who don't have access to the software. So from the Collaborate tab on the ribbon, you can select shared views to launch your shared view palettes. And when you're ready to share your content, just press the new shared view button, name the view and press the share button, and you can then share that link with project stakeholders. So they'll have that ability to review, comment and mark up the shared 2D sheet. using your Autodesk viewer on their web browser. So back in Revit, you can click refresh button in the shared view palettes at any time to review the latest comments and other information. So it really sort of helps with that paperless office. If anyone's in offices these days. You can open the cloud model from file menu. So in Revit 2022, when you navigate to the file open, you can find a cloud model button to open that Revit cloud model, which provides another way to access those cloud-based models in addition to the home page. Saving a Revit project as a cloud model and initiating a cloud work sharing display. It's a similar user interface, which provides you with a better user experience. And on the homepage as well, the button BIM 360, available in previous Revit releases, has now been replaced with a button Autodesk Docs to access projects stored on that platform. We're just going to go through some of the document efficiency now. So Revit 2022, this is where it enables work sets to be scheduled. So you can now add a work set parameter when creating a schedule in work shared models. The work set parameter is also available when creating material takeoffs, view lists, sheet lists, title blocks, etc. It enables you to filter and format schedules based on work sets. So Revit 2022 includes this and many other enhancements to improve your productivity when generating schedules. Shared parameters in key schedules. So shared instance parameters associated with categories now appear as available fields when creating a key schedule for that category. So the key schedule filters compatible parameters that may be included. When a key is applied to an element, properties assigned by the key become read-only in that properties palette, and Revit indicates that status along with the tooltip for each parameter. This new feature will help you save you time and errors in entering data into your projects through key schedules. So if you do use key schedules, you'll find this a great help. You can filter by family and type parameters in schedule and material takeoffs. So it really improves that family filtering in single or multi-category schedules. You can also split schedules across sheets. So when working with long schedules, people have found in the past, you can't do it. So you can now, it's helpful to actually split that schedule into segments. You weren't able to do this before. So Revit 2022, it introduces split and place functionality for schedules, enabling you to split the schedules and specify those destination sheets for each of those schedules or each of that part of that schedule. So you can split it against multiple sheets. Gives you a lot better control, especially with the schedules. Revit now supports the ability to export schedules as CSV files as well. So if you do add a schedule to a sheet, you can export it as a CSV format. When exporting a schedule, you can send the data to a CSV and get it out to Excel, where you can open and manipulate it. In Revit 2022, you can control the display of properties when multiple elements are having that different parameter values for those properties are selected. When you select multiple elements, any properties that they share are reported. In the past, if those parameter values for properties were shared by the selected elements, the value was reported, but if they were different, no value was shown. Where now, when multiple elements are selected and those parameters are different, they report either as varies or as your own sort of custom text string. So this feature really reduces that confusion and improves productivity by allowing you to quickly identify those varying parameter values. Rotating tags. So when you rotate a tag in Revit, you might like to control that angle precisely. So you can now set in a new angle parameter for tags. It's found in the properties palette, and it makes it easier to control that displayed angle of that rotated tag. So if you rotate the tag with the rotate command, the angle value is automatically calculated, but you can enter a specific value. So it makes it easy to apply tags in your views, giving you a better control over it. And if you have that, you can also have multi-leader tags. So if a view in your project contains similar elements, you may prefer that they share a tag. So you can apply a single tag to multiple elements and even indicate that total quantity if you desire. So once you place that tag in the model, you can add or remove leaders to similar host elements at any time. And you can just select the tag, and using the add and remove host option, you can add additional hosts. Wall mullion tags. So a new category has been added for curtain wall mullions. So you can choose to load the tag for curtain wall mullions or create your own tag for that category. So these tag enhancements really add that flexibility and will help you create more readable and efficient annotations when documenting. Yep. You can use multi-category tags in Revit to reduce the number of tag families. So this feature is especially useful when several categories share that same tag graphics, or when shared parameters are utilized across several categories. So it's been extended to support all existing taggable categories, including subcategories. So for stairs, structural connections, internal load categories, analytical categories, and more. Revit 2022 improves the behavior of tags in host models that reference elements in those linked models. Tags in a host model that are attached to elements in a linked model will now remember that linked element ID. So if a linked file is unloaded or out of date, the tag can be orphaned. Where now the linked file is reloaded, the tag will automatically reattach to that linked element automatically. When you need a custom dimension containing a prefix or a suffix, you can now include a definition for that prefix and the suffix in the dimension family type. So previously you could only add those prefix and suffix values to an individual instance of the dimension, where now you can actually add them into a type of dimension, so it saves you time. The prefix and suffix defined in the type is automatically added when each dimension is placed. So it really improves that productivity when you need to put a prefix in. You can just change that type. You can create custom revision numbering sequences. So this is great. You can now really specify that minimum number of digits to maintain your standardized length. And it really aligns with that ISO 19650 and also your own regional standards for like Transport New South Wales, etc. You can use that custom prefix or suffix to denote a project stage as well. So you can really put in like a 10:1 or construction documentation, etc. You can customize the sequence characters, and you can share that revision numbers sequence using your transfer project standard. So you can set it up as a new standard, as you can see on screen, and you can transfer that to other projects. Yeah, or save it into your template. We can add spot slope labels and spot elevation markers on a ramp run in plan, elevation, section, and 3D views. So change those annotation parameters to meet your documentation standards. In past releases, it was time consuming to hide the non-core wall layers. So you can hide or turn off the layers of core walls. So you've got now a parameter to help you display only those wall core layers. So it's in the visibility graphics dialog box. You can deselect the new non-core layers and it'll display a simplified version of those walls. So probably more of an architectural feature, but occasionally we do need to show those core walls, etc. So wall layers located between those core boundaries will remain visible. Makes it a lot easier to, easier to read plans in Revit. In Revit 2022, you can choose to display grid lines in your 3D views. You can go to the Show Grids parameter in the Properties palette to access a list of levels that you want to select the grid lines to display for. When you hover over a grid, it'll highlight as a planar surface. If you select the grid, the controls will appear and its properties will display in the 3D in the Properties palette. In the 3D view, you can treat grids in many of the same ways as you do in a 2D view. So you can hide grids, you can display grids by halftone, you can copy, paste, or delete grids from the model. You can snap to grids when placing other elements. You can also change those grid instance and type properties. If you want to hide part of the model, you can create that 3D section box. And as you can see, you can use the grid lines, they don't extend beyond the bounding box, making it easy to navigate that portion of the model. So you can display and utilize your grids in 3D views to help orientate and navigate your model. And also when you're providing those views on drawings, it just makes it a lot more approachable. One of the most efficient ways in Revit to control the visibility and color of elements is to use view filters. So Revit 2022 introduces new filter rules, phase created and phase demolished, to help display the phases of projects. So it makes it a lot easier to visually locate those elements and understand those phases. I have used it a lot as well. Like I've used it when I've produced a model that went through many variations over the years, and you can actually add in the different years and what was demolished or what was done in previous years. And using this new view filter, it's fantastic. It just makes it workable, where before it was a real bit of a pain, where now it just works. In the visibility graphics dialog, those filters now support selection, modification, and removal of one or more filters in the list at a time. So subsequent filters can also be moved up or down to adjust that priority. So you can apply those overrides to all the selected filters at one time, where before you had to do one at a time, where now you can actually select multiple filters. In Revit 2022, you're able to preserve your callouts when deleting those parent views. So the callout view is able to be switched between the parent view and all intersecting views. So the callout views can be hidden by the hide scales coarser than settings. Setting the parent view to none will make the callout independent from the parent view. So callouts without a parent view are visible in intersecting views. Dependent callout views are preserved when the parent view is deleted. You are asked if you would like to make the callout view independent or delete the callout view. More categories can now be shown an annotation symbol using the maintain or annotation orientation family parameter. So with this improvement, maintain annotation orientation has been added to the following categories. So generic models, mechanical equipment, specialty equipment. There are some developer tools, so we'll just touch on some of the Dynamo improvements. We've only got a couple of slides to go. So in Revit 2022, 67 new Dynamo Revit nodes have been added to support the most commonly requested conditions for annotations, sheets, and views to automate those documentation tasks for higher efficiency. It also includes Dynamo for Revit 2.10 or 2.10. These nodes will help you work a lot more productively on your documentation through Dynamo. Revit 2022 provides better support for add-ins with the enhanced Revit API. So you can now read and modify sketches from Revit elements via the API. You can control the two-dimensional label offset through the bottom corner. And you can also control the length of the viewport label line in sheet space. And you can access Recap API using the improved point cloud Revit API. So it really gives you the developers more new possibilities when building those Revit add-ins. I'm now just going to go on to a bit of a live demonstration. So I'm just going to show you some of those features. So I'm going to just bring up the sample project here in 2022. I will try and say it right by the end of the demonstration. So that cloud content, first of all, so it is under insert, and you can go to load Autodesk family through the cloud content here. It has come up on my other screen. I will drag it back. So you can browse, go through all your results. You can load content. I know I did have someone saying, can you path local content? You can find and load content as well, but this is generally only really set up for the cloud content. So you generally use like the normal load family. So this is sort of really specific to the cloud, like the Autodesk content. And you can go through and find like your annotations. I'll just go to like structural framing, something we all know and love. We've got our structural framing. You've got all like your, probably won't go anything too crazy. We've got our light gauge steel, and you can grab like your light gauge Zs. If you wanted to, like light gauge Z purlins, and load that in. And it basically just, again, it's come up on my other screen. So you basically got your Z purlins through here. Also want to show the tapered walls. So I'm just going to go to my 3D view. I've got some tapered walls I just did here. So they're reasonably easy to set up, and you can see how you'd use them like for a retaining wall or the like. Oops. No, I think the sound, someone's just saying, have you lost sound? I believe everyone can still hear me. It all looks okay on my end. Please let me know if you can't hear me, please. So these tapered walls are quite easy to set up. You can set it up with a taper on both ends or a taper on the internal or external side as well. So if you do go through to do a new wall, just structure and wall, you'll see I have set one up with a taper, but to set a new one up is quite easy. I can just, and again, they're all coming up on my second screen, apologies. I'll just get rid of the preview. So I'll just, I'll actually use a wall that sort of doesn't have a taper. So this is one here. And we can then go into edit the structure. And this works the same, it almost works the same as like a slab where you're trying to do a variable. So it's almost exactly the same as that. You can add in the variable here to the structure of that wall. You could do it for different like chords, etc. And hit OK. Once I do that, you'll now see that I get these cross-section properties. So I can change that angle and change where the width is measured. I can change that at the top or at the bottom. And I can change those angles. So I might just put in like a 20-degree wall. One thing I should have done, and yes, remember to always duplicate first before you change the settings. Don't do what I say, not what I do. Always duplicate first. And then you can change the settings, which I should have done. And OK. And now when I go to draw that wall in, and I'll just draw it along here, you can see at the moment it doesn't have that taper. So you can see it is just a normal sort of straight wall. But what I need to do is to go into the instance properties, and then that cross section, I can change to a tapered wall. It will say that I need to disable the analytical model. So I can just disable that analytical model and I'll get my tapered wall. And obviously I can flip the wall or do whatever I need to do. Or if I had a thickened base, I could put another wall on top of that and join them. So that's the new tapered wall feature, which is quite good. Reinforcement I'll show as well. So I've got a little rebar detail here. So this is just a little footing. So I just want to put like just some bars, maybe put a cage vertically through that. Yeah, I know that we'd normally put a vertical cage. I'm just going to put like a horizontal one. So I can go under my structure tab and hit my rebar. And you can see now I can again use my placement to place on near cover, etc. And you can see, oops, I didn't mean to jump to the other screen. You can now use by 2 points. So I can use that by 2 points. You'll see as well, you do get a little helpful tooltip come up. Now, I don't love this, but it does make it a lot more approachable to other people. So you can like, you know, use your up arrow to align to the highlighted reference, or, you know, use your space to rotate and flip, which we all know, but can, you know, be a lot easier for people who aren't used to using it. And I can put that bar in. And yep, I probably need to turn my reinforcement on, which I haven't. So I can't really see it. Please bear with me. Structural reinforcement. And I probably don't have it on fine level detail. Yep, and I probably, when I put it in, I probably may have only put 1 bar. Yep. So if I did have a fixed number by 2 points, it would work a little bit better. There we go. So yep, then that's our 3D bar. If I made it visible in this view, so it's my 3D, and you can see my bars there. So it just makes it a lot more approachable, especially for people who don't do a lot of reinforcement. It's just a lot easier to use than it was before. The revisions, just going to show the revisions as well. So if I go to manage and my additional settings and go to our revisions. Now I have prepared some before. So you can see before now where instead you just used to have that alphanumeric or numeric, you can now customize that numbering. So you can create, you've got your alphanumeric. I've done a prelim here as well, like for ISO 19650. We can create a new one. We could call this ISO construction. So this is set up for our ISO 19650 and just a construction one. And I can put that I want a minimum number of 3 digits or 2 digits, started at 1 and have a C for construction prefix, and OK, and OK. And now you can see if I add a new one, I can change that to that new construction numbering sequence and I'll get CO1. And if I add another one, and even if I go back to my preliminary setting, you will see how it's retaining that same number for that sequence. So I've got like preliminary 1, 2, 3, and 4. And not that, you know, it's probably advisable to have construction after or preliminary after construction, but see how you can retain that sequencing of numbering through there. So if I go back to my title sheet where you can see a few of those settings on, I do only have revision 1, 2 just in here. I don't really have dates or whatever, but you can see how I can tick these on and it will sort of retain that numbering sequence even though you've changed. So you can have that, and that complies with your ISO 19650. We've also got the PDF export. So if I go under File and Export, you'll see that we've got our PDF straight from here. And you'll notice that this dialog is very similar to the normal print dialog. So we can print our current window or a selected number of sheets, select whatever set we wanted to, or edit that set, filter this, etc. And then you get a file name through here. You can put your sheet size, or it'll use the sheet size. Do it as vector, etc. You can change that numbering, like we're saying. So we could go in through. I'm only selecting one sheet, so that's probably. I could probably just make sure I'm getting my sheets, and just grab all those sheets. Which I could probably do it by right-clicking, but yeah, and just select them. And then you can change how you're numbering them as well. So you can browse and put them in and export. We've also got our structural connections. So this is where you can, it's really a bit more like it's still very usable in here, but through Dynamo and that, it really becomes a great feature. So you can see I've got my normal, I'll just deselect my save and unlock that view. So you can see how I've got a bit of an apex haunch up here. Now again, you do need to load these connections in, but if I now go under edit type, you can see how I've got a new one here, which is modify my range of applicability. So I can come into that and I can actually say now I can create a new one. I don't have any set up, but I can create a new one. And once I create a new one, it will then ask me like, do I want to use the parameters from the section shape? And yes, and I can put in like sort of minimum values, etc. So I can have that, I want it as an I-beam, and then have a minimum value, a minimum width in here of like 100 and maybe a maximum of like 200. And then I can really make that will apply to any one where that section shape has a parallel flange and it's got those settings. And then that way in Dynamo it can recognize the two beams and then apply that setting, apply that connection that you want. And that's about it that I was going to show as a live demo. I will open up to some questions now. Like I said, we can, in your visibility, we do have those filters now available through here. So you'll see that we've got the phase filters. So I can have under phasing. I probably won't find it straight off. But we can, yeah, so in our filters, we can create a new filter and you'll see we've got, we can have phases in here. So I can have a new filter and define that filter. I'll just put it in as filter 1. And you can actually have the phase in here. So I can have like all my, say all my structural framing. And then I can actually get to do that by phase. So I can have phase created and then actually have that equals, and I could even have that was created. I do only have the existing construction in there, etc. But if I did create a new phase, that was like a new one, and add one in here and maybe call it like 1980 or something like that. I can now use that to filter. I know I'm jumping around a bit and probably doing this all a bit quick, but you can see here I can now put in that 1980 filter. So it just really gives you that ability to sort of color the filters and that through there, rather than having to use our just the simple one over here, which is just your sort of show all, etc. So I know you can create ones through there, but it just gives you a lot more of that. If you're doing a heap of stuff with phases, yeah, you can really change colors and stuff like that on different years and things like that. So it really gives you a lot more, especially if you're dealing with existing structures and historic documents, etc. Really, yeah, it's a feature people have been crying out for, and it gives you a lot more flexibility. I've got one question there. Is there any improvement with rebar diamond ties that aren't parallel to a face of concrete? That's quite specific. It's a good question. I will, I'll take your name and I'll try and get you an answer on that. Probably on the spur of the moment. I probably can't give you too much. It probably has improved, but I'd probably need to really look at that one. So I will take a note of that. Apologies that I can't answer that on the fly. For scheduling, what's the best way to separate concrete from steel? So currently when scheduling your steel beams, concrete ground beams are showing up, which you don't want to show up. That's probably more of a workflow issue. So it's odd. You can filter your schedule lists. So you can filter by material as well. So when you're producing a schedule, you can filter by material. So that might be a good way to get around it. Another one that I think that's a filter that I used a lot, just by the material. Just remember, if you are trying to filter by a property like that, I sometimes create two filters. Sorry, not two filters, two schedules. One will be a working schedule that I use more columns in, but then I get a more on sheet schedule where I'll be sort of duplicating that schedule, but I'll be hiding those columns. So just remember, if you do want to filter by something, make sure that that column, that parameter is in your schedule, and then you can use that to filter. And so hopefully that it's probably more of a workflow thing. Again, feel free to reach out through support at a2ktechnologies.com.au. Just visit our website. There is a support on it. Just lodge these questions in there, and I'll get answers to you. Is the Revit bridge chainage function works like Civil 3D chainage? I can't tell you. I probably don't have enough experience with Civil 3D to tell you. Yeah, so I just can't tell. Again, like I could probably put that in support and get an answer for you, but I'll probably need to speak to my civil counterparts. I just haven't used Civil 3D enough. So feel free to put some more questions through. I'll just, we've got just a couple of last slides that I'll just show at the end here. So yeah, please visit our website, a2ktechnologies.com.au events to view for any upcoming webinars. Thank you for your time today. If you do need information, please contact us via email at info@a2ktechnologies.com.au. And like I said, if you do have any questions, please put them through. There will be a recording made available, I believe. I'll try and get that link sent to you. I think everyone should get a follow-up email, which will probably have a link to the recording. It's not my, I'll try and find that out, but I do believe I know that for a fact it is being recorded, and will be up on our YouTube channel. It may take a week to go up. Usually it goes up pretty quickly. I don't know if you will all get an email about it, but if you do jump on our website or jump on YouTube and look up A2K Technologies, you'll find it there as well. Please reach out through that info@a2ktechnologies.com.au or support@a2ktechnologies.com.au, and we can get answers to all those questions and more. It's probably a bit difficult to take a fair few questions on notice. Yep, hopefully everyone's enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for attending. It has been a great improvement. So we all know, or some of us know, of that letter that the architect sent. Google it if you need to. And Revit's really, I think they're putting a lot more effort into bringing a lot of features through to Revit. So it is probably, I think, the greatest improvement between versions that I've seen.